Hello everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Bacon, and in today's video I will be looking at the I-180S. This of course is the first aviation prize for the Battlefield Engineer event and is a Russian premium aircraft at tier 2, currently sitting at a battle rating of 3.0 for both arcade and realistic game modes. Now, usually this is the point where I would go through the statistics of the aircraft. Not really going to do that. I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm just going to go through some pros and cons of the aircraft, things that I have sort of seen while playing it, and generally just form an opinion from that. So pros of the aircraft, good way to climb. That's one thing I've noticed. 16.6 meters per second. Not too bad. Of course, some things like Spitfires especially will outclimb that, but I would say it's generally in the average ballpark for that BR. Good guns, or the gun location. They're centrally mounted on the engine cowling. So this does mean that generally they're easy to aim, and also being close together does mean that the rounds are hitting a very focused impact point on the enemy aircraft. So say you're hitting a wing, it's not going to take long for that wing to give out with all those shells hitting a very focused point. So that is one positive of the guns. Maneuverability, good against most enemies. Obviously there's some, like Spitfires again, that you will not be able to outturn, but most aircraft you can. Especially good rudder control, good rudder authority with this aircraft, so that does mean that doing flick rolls and such could be a good tactic for getting enemies off your tail. Also the red skin, it is worth mentioning, the red skin on this aircraft does mean it goes faster, so that is a big positive there. Cons, fairly minor this one, but the gun recoil does cause a slight pitching motion, so that is something you will need to correct for when using the guns. The engine's very susceptible to damage. Big radial engine, big frontal profile, very likely to get hit, and when it does get hit, it will generally overheat and just die, so be careful with your engine. And also facing bombers can be tricky, for example the BV-238. You only have MGs, so the likelihood of killing that thing before he kills you is fairly low, so be very careful of attacking bombers, especially bigger bombers with a lot of waist gunners. Be very careful with that. Well, now that the pros and cons are out of the way, I will chuck the stat card up on the screen if you want to take a look at it. Pause the video, look at the relevant information, and then we will jump straight into some gameplay with the aeroplane. Alrighty, so starting off with the first game, going in on a Hawker Typhoon 1A, the early version of the Typhoon in the British tech tree. First burst sets him on fire. I decide that he's as good as dead, so I decide to leave and go for another target. The fire does then actually go out on the Typhoon, which of course can happen. Although he does go down and crash later on in the game, so I then do get a kill from him. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm going for this group of enemy fighters over here. There's a P-40 who I've sort of set my sights on. So I begin to go in, and this really does demonstrate the long-range capability of these guns, which of course then being centered is very nice. And I get a critical from a fairly safe range from behind the P-40. He then begins to go down, trying to evade my shots. I do make some badly aimed bursts, but luckily I begin to get back on his tail. And I do get some closer hits, although I am gaining quite quickly, so I do decide to pull off from the P-40 just so I don't crash into him, and then begin to go around again. Now what I do here is I just look around, make sure there's no other enemy fighters coming in. I don't want to get attacked by a load of random enemies, but it looks clear, so I decide to go back in on the P-40. He at this point is coming back towards me, and this is where I can get the killing blow, and as you can see, set him on fire and ripped his wing off, so that was the P-40 down. So next up we see the Hawker Typhoon, who just crashed, giving me my second kill of the game, and in front of me is an F2A Buffalo. So I begin to head in. My first burst on the Buffalo is very lackluster, not the best aiming really. I get a single hit and that's pretty much it. I begin to pull around to try and get the lead on him. My pilot begins to black out, but luckily I'm able just to stop that happening. Continue to turn around, get the lead on the Buffalo, fire some shots off, set him on fire, and then knock out his tail, giving me my third kill of the game. And that seemed like a fairly decent game. This was one of the earlier games I had in the aircraft, so it was pretty good, and I think it did well to give an initial demonstration of the guns performance especially. The one thing that was annoying was I wasn't really well versed in the brakes on the aircraft, and it turns out it likes to tip forward, so do be careful with that when you are playing this aircraft. So the next game started off with me at a fairly decent altitude attacking a Ju-87D. Luckily he turned into the head-on quite late, giving me a chance to knock him out before he could do any major damage to me, and that was my first kill of the game. Next up, a Re-2001 Italian fighter aircraft, fairly recent addition to the game. Decent airplane. We both go into the head-on. We both turn off to prevent being hit. But as he's on the way down trying to get away, I'm able just to clip his wing, knock that wing off, giving me my second kill of the game. Now, the next segment, I go in on another Re-2001. He's flying along. I set him on fire. Someone else takes the kill. I get an assist for that. Not a big deal. As you can see, though, at high speeds, the controls are still pretty decent. I was diving in there at fairly decent speed, and yet I was able to pull out that dive fairly easily. The controls don't really lock up that much at higher speeds. So there's the assist on the Re-2001. Here's a C-205 coming on. He's moving in, not really looking at me. I don't think he doesn't even bother shooting at me, so I fire off. And my first burst actually hits the wing, giving me my third kill of the game. So certainly pretty good there. This thing does have a tendency just to rip off the wings of enemy aircraft. Now next up, a teammate shoots at me for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know what he was doing. All I know is that later on he crashed. He attacked a ground target and then he crashed. I don't know why, but he just did. But you know, I told him to piss off, and he left me alone, which is good. Dornier 217, the last guy I kill in this game, my fourth and final kill for this game. Initial sort of head-on. I get a hit. That's about it. I was at quite a fair distance from him, so once he goes by, I turn in. I didn't want to really go in front of him because I know he has guns, and I don't want like 4 20 mils all shooting at me. But when I get behind, I do some hits, get a few criticals, do a lot of damage to his aircraft, and he goes down, and that was my fourth and final kill of the game. And then once I'm almost back at the airfield, I'm on the way back to the airfield, got my gear down, about to land, the game ends, first on the team, with 2 assists and 4 kills. So certainly a game I was very happy with, good fun, and I really must say this aeroplane, getting footage of it, it's been very fun. I really have enjoyed doing that, so it's a good fun vehicle. I would certainly advise you to try it out, especially considering it's the first one you gain in the event, theoretically, because this is the aircraft you're grinding every time. You might as well give it a go if you can. Now this game really was one that I did find incredibly fun. First off, attacking a Spitfire, an aircraft that does outmaneuver me very much, so it was a fairly satisfying kill. He levels out for whatever reason, and I'm able to get a pilot snipe, so that was the first kill. And now coming up is the clip that I think is probably the best set of kills I've got in this aircraft yet. A P-51 and a Spitfire attacking AA units on a friendly airfield. Go for the P-51 in a head-on, pilot snipe him, he doesn't even get any shots off. Next up is Spitfire. This one takes a bit longer and I do get damaged, but it's fine because I'm at a friendly airfield. And as you can see, there we go, Spitfire dead, and I'm at the airfield. Bit of an iffy approach, I will admit, not the best circuit planning, but I get the gear down, get the flaps down, turn in, use the guns a little bit just to get the aircraft to a nice stop, and I was landed. And after that, there was only one enemy left. I got back in the air. The only enemy left was a Halifax. He was sitting on the enemy airfield. Eventually he took off and the other teammate killed him, although the Halifax also killed the other teammate who was in a Yak 9. So I was the last person alive in the entire game, and in the meantime I had actually been taking out ground targets that had appeared to be destroyed. So top of the team, 3 kills, a ton of ground targets. Certainly a game I enjoyed very much. That double head-on though was just absolute mad lad moment. I really enjoyed that, and it really does show the great usage of those centrally mounted guns. Very easy for head-ons. Aiming is just brilliant. Of course, the recoil does create a slight pitching motion, but that's not really a huge disadvantage. BF-110, take him out. Pilot snipe, just a ton of shots straight through the cockpit. Certainly not going to survive that. C-205, he tries to run away. He could technically outrun me if he wanted. But for some reason he begins to turn back in, allowing me to gain on him, which I really don't see why he did. So by doing that, I'm able to get closer, get on his tail, and then he does try and do some evasive maneuvers, but by the time he's done that, he then for a second levels out, giving me the chance to hit him, knock out the pilot, set him on fire, and that is my second kill of that game. And as you can see, it only took a few rounds to hit the enemy aircraft in quick succession, and that was him out. So that was another kill there. Next up, a BF-109. So, moving in on him, the first rounds that I pump into him don't do much. I get a single hit, that's pretty much it. Probably my shoddy aiming on the first run-in. But after that, instead of running away, he decides to pull up, giving me the chance to get on his tail, fire a few shots, and completely rip him to shreds. So that was my third kill of the game, and unfortunately after that, I was then killed by an Italian Spitfire. So he's flying off there. I'm trying to get around, but, you know, Spitfire's turn quick. He comes around. I'm already damaged. I can't turn all that well. And bye-bye bacon. I am then killed. So, next up, this game. a good example of multiple enemies attacking me. So there's a lot of Japanese aircraft on me, an F4U, an A6M2, all these kind of vehicles that probably outmaneuver me, definitely outspeed me. One of them rips his wings. One of the A6M2s rips his wings. So that's one enemy down. Next up, there's the A6M2N, the float version, flying off, and bye-bye. All it takes is some ranged shots with those guns, some fairly decent aiming to hit him and kill him. Next up, the F4U. So he's going down. This is really a perfect situation for me. So I try firing some long shots, try getting close. All I get is a single hit. But then I begin to go around. I pull around, slight bit of the flaps there without them ripping. And really, there we go. Pilot snipe from the side, giving me that kill. And it is funny because during that engagement, 2 enemy aircraft who attacked me ripped their wings. They were bye-bye. They killed themselves, and then I took out the other 2. So I was very lucky to survive that engagement. Now, my third and final kill of this game was on an A6M2, of course, Mitsubishi Zero, very famous Japanese fighter. He is following a friendly LA5. As he's in the turn, I fire off some scouting shots, then do my final burst, which sets him on fire, knocks out the pilot, giving me my third and final kill of that game. And that was then the end of that game. I went back to the airfield. My engine, which was already damaged, did then die, and luckily the game ended just before I likely would have smashed into the ground. So thank you very much for the game ending at that time, but that was third in the team and 3 kills from that game. Okay, so the I-180, to sum it up, of course I've already done the pros and cons. That's basically my conclusions on the vehicle. I just did that at the beginning of the video. But to sum it up here, it's a fun aircraft. It is very fun. Way more fun than I was expecting. I figured it would suck. I thought, oh, it'll just be an I-16, maybe a bit more powerful at a higher rating. It'll get completely seal clubbed. But it's actually pretty fun. It is kind of difficult to get a good idea of how the aircraft performs in the normal War Thunder RB environment, purely because everyone is playing this vehicle at the moment on the Russian side, so your entire team is made up of I-180s. It's not so good to see how it performs with a normal Russian Air RB team. But nonetheless, it is a fun vehicle. It is, of course, premium tier 2, so you can't be expecting it to make a ton of Silver Lions, but it does make a decent amount. A decent game with premium account. I've been making around 70k per game. The most I've made is about 115k Silver Lions, so it can be used to grind. Of course, it won't be as much as a tier 4 premium, but it is a decent amount of Silver Lions nonetheless. So I would say, if you are grinding the event, or even if you're not bothered, just play the game chill, get some of the toolboxes, maybe get the aeroplane, and give it a go, because it is actually really fun. I've really enjoyed playing this. Hopefully now Gaijin will come through with the other event vehicles sometime later this week, so I can give them a go in videos. But at least for now, the I-180, I'm certainly satisfied with this vehicle, and it is very fun. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. If you did enjoy, please consider smashing the like button, maybe even subscribe to the channel. If you do, that would be massively appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.